Good morning, Susie.
Good morning, Rabbi.
How are you today?
I'm so far so good. How about you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. Thank God well. Is Joan here yet?
Yeah, she finally came in.
Joan is here. Good morning, Joan. How are you?
Morning, Rabbi. I'm good, Baruch Hashem, and you?
Good. Baruch Hashem. Wonderful. Bela Esther, how are you this morning?
I'm okay.
Good. Good. Very good. Okay. So let's jump right in. We'll share our screen. We have a lot of interesting stuff to cover today. Um, I want to apologize for my abrupt ending last week. There was some of you know that I'm involved with a Jewish volunteer EMS organization as an EMT.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to mute you, Brett, and when you're done, please unmute yourself. So we got a call. It was like at 11:15. I said, okay, class is over, so I can take the call. Ended up being someone who got into a fight with a pallet jack. Thank God he's okay. But yeah, thank God all is well. So let's jump right in. To recap, and this is going to be also a good introduction for today, let's go over here. Another exceptional incident. We're talking about things that Rabban Gamliel did that were different because of the different circumstances that were over there. I made a bracha already before. L'chaim, l'chaim. Another exceptional incident is related. When his slave, Rabban Gamliel had a slave whose name was Tavi. Did we speak about slaves in the times of the Gemara, what that was like?
No.
We didn't. Okay. Also, Susie and Joan, I'm going to ask if you could mute yourselves, and then if you have any questions, then please unmute yourselves because I'm hearing a little bit of feedback again this week. I'm not sure why. So, when his slave, thank you so much. So the slaves in those days were non-Jewish slaves. When they would become slaves, they would when they would become slaves, they would undergo a certain, not a full conversion, but they would have to undertake that there were certain mitzvahs that they would keep. Good morning, Zalman. There were certain mitzvahs that they would keep, and then sorry, there we go. Okay, good morning, Lev Moshe. I hope you're in. There are certain
Good
mitzvahs
morning.
that, there we go. Good morning, Lev Moshe. There were certain mitzvahs that slaves had to keep, and then if they were ever freed, they would become a full-fledged Jew. They would have to accept all of the mitzvahs. So slaves were considered at that point, culturally, slaves were considered like property. Of course, you had to treat them well. And however, in terms of many different things, in terms of buying and selling and things like that, in terms of selling a slave would be similar to the laws of more similar to the laws of property than to the laws of in terms of the sale. So when Tavi, who was Rabban Gamliel's slave, when he died, even though the Mishnah says you're not supposed to mourn a slave, Rabban Gamliel accepted condolences for his death as one would for a close family member. So Rabban Gamliel's student said to him, "Have you not taught us, our teacher, that one does not accept condolences for the death of slaves?"
Hey, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Who were the slaves in those days? What
Who
group?
were the slaves? If I'm understanding your question correctly, the slaves were usually lower class people who either had been conquered when it's a good question. I'm not sure exactly what the slave trade was like. One thing that I do know is that there are very strict laws in Jewish law about how to treat your slaves. It's a very different kind of slavery than what we think of in the South. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So they asked him, one second, you taught us that if a slave dies, you're not supposed to accept condolences. So Rabbi Gamliel said to his students, my slave Tavi is not like the rest of the slaves. My slave Tavi was virtuous, and it is appropriate to accord him the same respect accorded to a family member. His slave was such a good person, such an upright person, and he was so connected to the family and so connected to Jewish life that he said, this is not a slave like property. He is a slave like family. With regard to reciting the Shema on one's wedding night, wants to recite Shema on the first night, he may do so. Is everyone able to hear me? Yeah, am I coming through clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said, not everyone who wishes to assume the reputation of a God-fearing person may assume it, and consequently, last week. Now, oh, 1 second, I went too far back. I apologize. Okay, here we go. An incident, so with that background, an incident is related that when Rabbi Eliezer's maidservant died. Rabbi Eliezer was another one of the teachers in the Talmudic time. And when his maidservant died, his students entered to console him. When he saw them approaching, he went up to the second floor, and they went after him. He entered the gatehouse, and they entered after him. He entered the banquet hall, was like a bigger room in the house, and they entered after him. Having seen them follow him everywhere, he said to them, it seems to me that you would be burned by lukewarm water. Meaning, I thought that you would be burned by lukewarm water, meaning that you could take a hint. And when I went up to the second floor, you would understand that I didn't wish to receive your consolations. Now I see that you're not even burned by boiling hot water. I went around the whole house trying to avoid you, and you guys followed me. Did I not teach you the following? For slaves and maidservants who die, one does not stand in a row of comforters to console the mourners, and one neither recites the blessings of the mourners, nor does he recite the consolation of the mourners, as the relationship between master and slave is not like a familiar relationship. Rather, what does one say about them when they die? Just as we say to a person as his ox or donkey, which died. May the omnipresent replenish your loss. So too do we say for one slave or maidservant who died. The story they say, a guy, Josh Cohen, comes home early from shul one week. His wife says, Josh, what are you here so early? And Josh says, they didn't want me there. I know how to take a hint. She says, come on, you're too sensitive. He says, no, I know how to understand a hint. I can take a hint. They didn't want me there. She says, come on, Josh. You're so sensitive. Well, what was it? What did they say? He says, trust me, I can understand a hint. She says, no, Josh, well, what happened? What did they say? He says, they picked me up and threw me out. Okay. So we say, may the omnipresent replenish your losses. The connection between a master and a slave is only financial in nature, not a familial tie. Okay. It was taught in another brisa, one does not eulogize slaves and maidservants. However, Rabbi Yosef says that if he was a virtuous servant, one recites over him a eulogy of sorts. Not a full-blown eulogy, but we say, alas, a good and loyal man who enjoyed the fruits of his hard labor. They said to him, if that's the praises that you're giving to a Goyish slave who died, so what praise do you have left for the virtuous Jews? A Jewish person would be proud to be eulogized in such a manner. There's no answer over there. Just, it's a beautiful, beautiful eulogy. Halavai on us, a good and loyal man who enjoyed the fruits of his hard labor. Halavai on us. Okay, this is very interesting. It's going to connect back to the slave subject, but it's first, we're going to get there in a little bit of a scenic way. How many fathers, how many patriarchs are there?
4.
3.
The
3.
fathers. Fathers are 3. Does anyone remember who they are?
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Very good. How many mothers?
4.
4. Does anyone remember who they are?
Says on the screen, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah.
Ah, good. Okay. So we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we have Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. The question is, why only these 3? For the forefathers, right? Why only these 3? Why not less than them, and why not more? Why not only Abraham be the father of the Jewish people? Why Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And why all 4? Okay, so let's see. You know what? Let's discuss this a little bit. What do you think? Why only Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? So Abraham was the first Jew, so I guess Adam couldn't be considered the father of the Jewish people because Adam is the father of all people. But let's talk about Jacob's sons, people. Anyone want to jump in? Any ideas?
No.
They were originators.
What does originators mean?
They were the first and the original. From
Okay.
them came forth everyone else.
Right, but I would posit that from the 12 tribes, we all come as well, no?
But all the 12 tribes come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
That's true. That's true. So we're on the right track. Let's look inside in the Gemara. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for this exclusivity with regard to the patriarchs? If you say that it's because we don't know which of the 12 tribes we come from, I don't know if I'm from Reuben or from Simon, etc., etc. So we can't say our father Reuben, for example. So that's why, because we don't know which one is which. That cannot be the reason. You know why? Because how many wives did Jacob have? How many?
One of them had 2.
So Jacob had 4 wives. Jacob had 4 wives.
He's got me beat by 1.
Sorry?
He's got me beat by 1.
So Jacob had 4 wives. And 2 of them, Rachel and Leah, are matriarchs. We don't know whether we come from Rachel or Leah, or if we even come from Rachel or Leah, right? So if the reason why we don't count the 12 tribes as our fathers is because we don't know which of them we come from, then with regards to the matriarchs as well, we don't know whether we were sent from Rachel or from Leah. So we shouldn't call Rachel and Leah matriarchs either. So what's the real reason? Instead, the real reason of the sons of Jacob's are not called patriarchs is not for that reason, but because until Jacob, they are significant enough to be referred to as patriarchs. But beyond Jacob, they are not significant enough to be referred to as patriarchs. It's the internal structure of the human. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were of such stature, that they were significant, and therefore we call them the fathers of the Jewish nation. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah were significant, and therefore we call them the mothers of the Jewish nation. In other words, the fathers and the mothers, them 7, include within them everything that we need to survive as a nation, to thrive as a nation, and to bring Mashiach as God's nation, to make the world a holy place. Everything that we have comes from them 7. This what we just said, serves as an introduction to the next part that we're going to learn about slaves. Although older people are often referred to with the honorific father so-and-so, right? You go over to a person today, I think we will call them grandpa, right? Or uncle, or aunt, or grandma, right?
Mhm.
So it was taught in another brisa. One may not refer to slaves and maidservants as father so-and-so or mother so-and-so. Because a slave is not appropriate to call them, like they are honorable if they are just slaves. However, the slaves and maidservants of Rabban Gamliel, they would call father so-and-so and mother so-and-so. So the Gemara asks the basic, very fundamental question. What's this story got to do with the law? The law is that you cannot refer to slaves and maidservants as father so-and-so and mother so-and-so. And then we bring a story from Rabban Gamliel that they would call them father so-and-so and mother so-and-so. What's going on? Are we citing a story in order to contradict the previously stated halacha? So the Gemara answers no, there's no contradiction. Because Rabban Gamliel's servants were significant. And because they were significant, they were addressed with these honorifics. They were important people themselves. They weren't just regular slaves. Okay, so now we're going to circle back and we're going to throw in a little bit at least of a discussion that actually pertains to the general discussion that we've been having, which is about Shema and prayer. The Gemara cites an Agadic statement concerning prayer and reciting the Shema. Rabbi Elazar said, what is the meaning of that which is written in Psalms? So I will bless you as I live. To your name I will raise my hands. That is a reference to the Shema and the Amidah. So I will bless you as I live. I think we got to do like a prayer session so that we can all get very familiar. I know Zalman has started getting more familiar with the 3 paragraphs of Shema and what is the Amidah, the standing prayer. But I really think we got to get together at some point and live this. Instead of just talking about Shema and the standing prayer, live the Shema and live the standing prayer. Actually go through it. So I will bless you as I live refers to reciting the Shema. And to your name I will raise my hands refers to the Amidah, the standing prayer, which is characterized as lifting one's hands to God. And if one does so, what does it say in the next verse? The verse says about him, as with fat and marrow, my soul will be satisfied. Which means that just like good fatty meat and a nice fatty marrow will satisfy your stomach, your soul gets satisfied from saying the Shema and praying. And not only does he receive this world, he inherits 2 worlds, this world and the world to come. As it says in the rest of the verse, with the lips of joys in plural, my mouth praises you. In other words, because of the praises of my mouth, I will inherit 2 joys. The plural of joys refers to the joy of this world and of the world to come. So now that we're talking about Rabbi Elazar, we're talking about prayer. There is a beautiful, beautiful prayer that Rabbi Elazar would say after he would conclude his own prayer. And he would say, may it be your will, the Lord our God, to cause to dwell in our lot love and brotherhood, peace and friendship. And may you make our borders rich in disciples and cause us to ultimately succeed, that we will have a good end and hope. May you set our portion in the Garden of Eden, and may you establish for us a good companion and good inclination in your world. May we rise early and find the aspiration of our hearts to fear your name, and may the satisfaction of our souls come before you. Meaning, may you hear our prayers that we may have spiritual contentment in this world for the best.
Rabbi, can I interrupt for a minute?
Please.
Does anyone know where the Garden of Eden is?
That's a good question. There are discussions about it. I don't know if anybody knows where the Garden of Eden is. Of course, there is a physical Garden of Eden, and there's also the spiritual Garden of Eden, which is where the souls go. It does exist. I don't know where.
Okay.
I think there have been people who travel there. There are stories of people who have traveled there and found the place. There is also a physical hell somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody was trying to stake that out.
I was just wondering.
Right. We learned already a story, right, of the guy who was going collecting coals near the cemetery, and Rabbi Akiva stopped him and then said Kaddish for him, and then his soul was able to depart.
I don't remember.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, we learned that a few months ago. I think it's incredible that we're all keeping this up. It's over a year. Thank God. God bless us all. So we have the Gemara recounts that after Rabbi Yochanan would conclude his prayers, he would say the following additional prayer. May it be your will, the Lord our God, that you look upon our shame and behold our plight. That you clothe yourself in your mercy and cover yourself with your might. That you wrap yourself in your loving kindness. This is so poetic. And gird yourself with your grace. May your attributes of goodness and humility come before you. After Rabbi Zera concluded his prayers, he said the following additional prayer. May it be your will, the Lord our God, that we not sin or shame ourselves, and that we not disgrace ourselves before our forefathers, in the sense that our actions should not disgrace the actions of our forefathers. After Rabbi Chia prayed, he said the following, May it be your will, the Lord our God, that your Torah should be our vocation, and may our heart not become faint, nor our eyes dim. Rav said the following after his prayer, May it be your will, the Lord our God, that you grant us a long life, a life of peace, a life of goodness, a life of blessing, a life of sustenance, a life of freedom of movement from place to place where we are not tied up to one place, a life of dread of sin, a life without shame and disgrace, a life of wealth and honor, a life in which we have the love of Torah and reverence for heaven, a life in which you fulfill all the desires of our heart for good. These are gorgeous prayers. After his prayer, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said the following, May it be your will, the Lord our God and the God of our forefathers, that you save us from the arrogant and you save us from arrogance, from a bad man, from a bad mishap, from an evil instinct, from a bad companion, from a bad neighbor, from the destructive Satan, from a harsh trial, and from a harsh opponent, whether he is a member of the covenant, meaning whether he is Jewish, or whether he is not a member of the covenant.
I didn't think Satan was a Jewish concept.
Oh, very good question. So Satan, the way the Christians believe in Satan, is not a Jewish concept. The Jewish people believe that there is only one source for everything. The good and the evil all come from God. Satan is an angel of God who is sent, for example, in this week's Torah portion, where we have the wicked Balak was going to the wicked Bilam, was going on his way to Balak to curse the Jewish people before the Jewish people came into Israel. So it says that there was an angel who went lesatan lo, to be a Satan for him, which means to distract him and to stop him from going. Over there was actually a good angel who was trying to stop Bilam from getting killed. So Satan is when we talk about the prosecutor of the Jewish people, we usually refer to him as the Satan. So there are certain things that we do, for example, blowing the shofar before Rosh Hashanah, and then taking a break on the day before Rosh Hashanah. So for the whole month preceding Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar every day, and this is all to confuse the Satan. Or giving charity on the day before Yom Kippur, right before Yom Kippur, before Kol Nidre, before evening, right? So when you're still allowed to, in the afternoon prayers, before Yom Kippur comes in, we put a lot of coins into the charity box, and the noise should confuse the Satan, and should overpower him, that his voice should not be heard. These are all symbolic, but we do believe in an evil power, which is granted its power by God, and its job is to it's not dissimilar from the angel of death. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a story, they say. Why not? If we're talking already about the Satan and the angel of death. There was a guy, and he was a miser. Very, very, very rich man, and extremely unhappy. He had a neighbor who was very, very poor, but always happy. And this unhappy man couldn't stand the joy of his neighbor. During the year, it wasn't so bad because everyone was in their own houses. But on Sukkot, when everyone is outside inside their sukkah, and this unhappy, depressed, grumpy man is sitting there, and he has to live through all the singing and joy of his neighbor. So one year, he decided that he has a plan. He forbade anyone from giving him any tools or from giving him any wood to this poor neighbor. He figured, this way I'll finally be free. This guy will be sad. Well, on the day before Sukkot, like usual, he runs around asking anyone if they have any spare boards. And this year, nobody wanted to give him anything. They all said, no, I need this one for that. I need this from the other. After a while of running around, he had a hunch what might be, and he confirmed it with one of the townspeople that the man had threatened to ruin the life of anyone who would dare lend a tool or a board to this poor neighbor. Well, he's about to get sad and depressed, and then he realizes that it's Sukkot. It's the holiday of our joy, the most joyous holiday. How could I be sad? We got to figure something out. He figures outside of the town, there's the cemetery. He runs to the cemetery and he sees, to his luck, inside the house that they have over there, the shed, whatever it is, they have two kinds of tombstones. They have the marble ones, and then for people who can't afford the stone, they have wooden headboards, I guess we would call it. And they all pre-filled. It just says R.I.P. here lies, but it doesn't have any name in it yet. He turns to the guy who's the attendant of the cemetery, what, the undertaker, and he says to him, sorry,
Yeah, undertaker.
yeah, the undertaker. He says, can I please borrow these boards? And he explains to him the situation. He says, I'll bring them back right after the holiday. And the guy says, sure. Oh, now he's so happy. He grabs all his boards. He runs home. He puts himself up a sukkah. He finds some trees. He chops down the leaves. He puts them on top. And just in time, he's ready. And that night he came and he's so excited before he even starts Kiddush. He's singing and dancing. Could you imagine the miser from next door comes? And he hears now all the singing and joy. He can't believe his ears. This was supposed to be the most depressing holiday ever. And here he hears his neighbor singing and dancing. He comes outside and he sees his neighbor has a sukkah standing. He comes inside, with flames coming out of his nose and steam coming out of his ears. And the happy neighbor says, come, say l'chaim, have something to eat. Well, the man is too angry. He says, tell me, where did you get these boards? Where did you get the sukkah from? How did you build a sukkah? So this man was very smart. He says, I'll tell you, I don't know what happened this year. Nobody wanted to give me anything for a sukkah. So I couldn't find anything in the town. I started going out of the town. As I'm going out of the town, I see this wild, dangerous, angry-looking man running towards our city with a dagger. I wasn't going to let that happen. I jump on him and I pin him to attack our town with a dagger. I won't let you go. He says, you must let me go. I'm on a mission from God. He says, a mission from God? Who are you? He says, I am the angel of death. He says, you are the angel of death? Tell me, what does it feel like? You like killing people? You're an evil person? You're an evil being? He says, no, I am not. It pains me every time I have to kill. But God needs someone to do the job. So it's me. I will love if I don't have to. So I asked him, tell me, who are you going to kill? He says, I'm going to kill that rich miser. His time has come. So I said to him, no, come on. You're going to kill him? Let me tell you a secret. I'm going to give you a big favor. He's so depressed. He has no friends. He has nothing to look forward to. He has nothing in his life. He's just as good as dead. No reason to go there and kill him. He says, really? He has nothing in his life. There's nothing to look forward to. He has no friends. He has no family. He doesn't even have himself to spend time with. He hates himself so much. He's so depressed. He says, yeah, this guy, I'm telling you, is as good as dead. The angel of death said, wow, you saved me a job. You saved me from having to kill him. How can I repay you? So I said, please, if you could give me something to make a sukkah with. And so the angel of death, he took me to the cemetery and he brought me these boards. Look, they all say R.I.P. on them. That's my proof that the story is true. Well, the evil man learned his the miser learned his lesson, and I think from then on he became a little happier. Anyways, that's a story about the angel of death. It's not a true story. Okay, so the Gemara notes that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi would recite this prayer every single day, despite the fact that there were royal officers who were watching over him for his protection. Nevertheless, he prayed to avoid conflict or hindrance resulting from arrogance. He still prayed this whole prayer. Let's read the prayer again, understanding that he had protection, an honor guard from the emperor, the Roman emperor himself. He would say, "May it be your will, the Lord our God and the God of our fathers, to save us from the arrogant and to save us from arrogance, to save us from a bad man, to save us from mishap, to save us from an evil instinct, from a bad companion, from a bad neighbor, from the destructive Satan, from a harsh trial, and from a harsh opponent, whether he is a member of the covenant or whether he is not a member of the covenant." Such a prayer, even though he had plenty of money, he had everything he needed, and he would pray every day that God save him from arrogance, save him from conflict and from strife. Rav Safra said the following. Safra is a very famous name today. Rav Safra, I'm not sure if they're related. Rav Safra said the following: "May it be your will, the Lord our God, that you establish peace." Oh, look at that. We finished 16b. Everybody, a round of applause. We finished page 16b. On to 17a. You put peace in the heavenly entourage of angels, each of whom ministers a specific nation, and whose infighting causes war on earth. And in the earthly entourage, who are the sages, and among the disciples who are engaged in the study of your Torah, whether they engage in its study for its own sake, or whether engaging in the study not for its own sake. What examples could you give of someone who is studying Torah not for its own sake?
Someone who's studying it is historical, like comparative religion, historical.
Okay, someone who's studying it as comparative religion or just as historical interest. Good. What else? Someone who is studying in order that he should be a big rabbi, and people should call him rabbi for honor. Someone who is studying in order that he should be able to prove his friends wrong. Someone who is studying for money. All of these things are not for its own sake. What you guys are doing, you are studying the Torah for its own sake. And he would pray that all those who are engaged in study not for its own sake, may it be your will that they will come to engage in the Torah study for its own sake. Rabbi Alexandri would say the following after his prayer: "May it be your will, the Lord our God, that you station us in a lighted corner and not in a darkened corner. Do not let our hearts become faint or our eyes become dim." Some say that prayer was not Rabbi Alexandri's prayer, rather that was the prayer of Rabbi Menuna. And Rabbi Alexandria would pray, after Rabbi Alexandria would pray, he would say the following: "Master of the universe, it is revealed and known before you that our will is to perform your will. And what prevents us? The yeast in the dough, the evil inclination that was within every person. We want to do what's right, but God gave us a bit of yeast in our dough that puffs us all up and makes us all arrogant, our evil inclination. And what else stops us? The subjugation to the kingdoms on the other. The fact that we're in exile. May it be your will that you will deliver us from their hands, both of the evil inclination and of the foreign kingdoms, so that we may return to perform the edicts of your will with a perfect heart." There's a rabbi, a great rabbi. His name is Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. He lived in the city of Berdichev in the mid to late 1700s. He is the greatest advocate for the Jews. And whenever he would see something, he would spin it for the positive. For example, he one time saw someone in the talis and tefillin, and they were busy greasing the wheels of their wagon for a trip that they were going to be going on. A regular person would come and see that and say, what kind of a chutzpah is this? Instead of davening, is greasing the wheels. Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev saw this and he said, look how holy your people are, God. Even while they're greasing the wheels of their wagon, they're praying to you. So he once said, oh, you're making a big deal that the Jewish people sin. He says, let me tell you something, God. If you would take all of the pleasures of this world, all of the sins of this world, and you would put them in the books, and you would put the Garden of Eden and hell out in the streets, you would put what's right and what's wrong out in the streets, do you think anybody would sin? Nobody would sin. It's your fault, God. You made it happen. Rava would say the following after his prayers. Rava would say, my God, before I was created, I was worthless. And now that I have been created, it is as if I have not been created. I'm not any more significant now than I was before I was created. I am dust in my life, and all the more so in my death. I am before you as a vessel filled with shame and humiliation. Therefore, may it be your will, the Lord my God, that I will sin no more, and that those transgressions that I have committed should be cleansed. Please cleanse in your abundant mercy. But may this cleansing not be by means of suffering and serious illness, but rather in a manner that I will easily be able to endure. And that is the confession of Rav Hamnun Azuti on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, that's what he would say. When Mar, the son of Ravina, would conclude his prayer, he would say the following: my God, guard my tongue from evil and my lips from speaking deceit. To those who curse me, let my soul be silent, and let my soul be like dust to all. Open my heart to your Torah, and may my soul pursue your mitzvahs. Save me from a bad mishap and from the evil inclination, from a bad woman, and from all evils that suddenly come upon the world. And all who plan evil against me, swiftly thwart their counsel and frustrate their plans. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart find favor before you, Lord, my rock and redeemer. So these are all different prayers that the different rabbis would say when they finished their prayer. The Gemara recounts that when Rav Sheshes would sit in observance of a fast, so if it was a fast day, then after he prayed, he would say the following: Master of the universe, it is revealed before you that when the temple is standing, one sins and offers a sacrifice. And although only its fat and blood were offered from that sacrifice on the altar, his transgression is atoned for him. And now I sat in observance of a fast, and my own fat and my own blood got diminished. May it be your will that my fat and blood that diminished be considered as if I offered a sacrifice before you on the altar, and may I find favor in your eyes. Having cited statements that various sages would recite after their prayers, the Gemara recites additional passages recited by the sages on different occasions. And we'll see how many we can get through. When Rabbi Yochanan would conclude the study of the book of Job, he said the following: a person will ultimately die, and an animal will ultimately be slaughtered, and all are destined for death. So death itself is not a cause for great anguish, because when I say life is a game and nobody makes it out alive, rather, happy is he who grew up in Torah, whose labor is Torah, who gives pleasure to his Creator, who grew up with a good name and took leave of the world with a good name. Such a person is going to die anyways, but this person filled their life and lived their life to the fullest. About him, Solomon said, a good name is better than a fine oil, and the day of death is better than the day of one's birth. One who was faultless in life reaches the day of his death on a higher level than he was at the outset. So this, one second. No, they don't give the explanation here. And somewhere in this is one of the favorite things that I say at funeral. Can anybody explain this to me? A good name is better than a fine oil. Can we figure out that part? Is that part simple enough? A good name is better than a good perfume? Anyone want to explain that?
Because to have a good name is to be someone who's admired by his peers and someone who followed the laws of the Torah.
Right, so a good name is who you are, and it stays. A good perfume wears off, and it doesn't show who you are. But how is the day of death better than the day of one's birth? So over here they explain that if you're faultless in life, right? If you lived a full life, then the day of your death you're on a higher level than you were when you were born. There's a beautiful story also with an analogy that I think we're going to get to at some point. Rabbi Meir was wont to say the following idiom. He would say, study with all your heart and with all your soul to know my ways, and to be diligent at the doors of my Torah. Keep my Torah in your heart, and fear of me should be before your eyes. Guard your mouth from all transgression, and purify and sanctify yourself from all fault and iniquity. And if you do so, I, God, will be with you everywhere. The sages in Yavne were wont to say, I, who learn Torah, am God's creature. And my counterpart, who engages in other labor, is also God's creature. My work is in the city, and his work is in the field. I rise early for my work, and he rises early for his work. And just as he does not presume to perform my work, so do I not presume to perform his work. Lest you say, I engage in Torah study a lot, while he only engages in Torah study a little, so I am better than he. It has already been taught. One who brings a substantial sacrifice and one who brings a meager sacrifice have equal merit, as long as he directs his heart towards the heaven. However much you are able to learn and engage in the Torah, so long as you direct your heart towards heaven, that is considered a full gift for God. Abaye was wont to say one must always be shrewd and utilize every strategy in order to achieve fear of heaven and performance of mitzvahs. One must fulfill the verse, a soft answer turns away wrath, and take steps to increase peace with one's brethren and with one's relatives, and with all people, even with a non-Jew in the marketplace, despite of the fact that he is of no importance to him and does not know him at all. You should be nice and increase peace with everyone you come in contact with, whether you know them, whether you don't know them, whether you're ever going to see them again. Let's finish with that. May be God's will that there should be peace among everyone, among all the Jews and among all the Goyim, and let us say Amen.
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 Thank you, Joan. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Susie. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Bela Esther. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Zalman. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Leib Moshe. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, Rita, Rachaleah. Have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's class is going to be on, let me read you the title. It's a good class. I want to get the words right here. Leadership during crisis. Should a leader reveal the magnitude of the enemy threat or project confidence and strength? Going to be here at the conference room in my office, 12:30 tomorrow. That's 3800 Inverary Boulevard, across from the Inverary, from the Chateau Mar Hotel, very close to Enveron. 12:30 tomorrow. We would love to see you if you can make it. Again, this is leadership during crisis. Does a good leader project confidence and strength, or does a good leader be transparent about the threat that's current? Wishing you all a wonderful day.
Thank you.
And if you're able to make it tomorrow, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.